Lesson 48. You don't need to know everything about accents. Pretty much every ancient Greek textbook I've ever read has a lengthy explanation of accents right at the very beginning.
Yeah, sometimes it's even before lesson 1. It's in the introductory material with the alphabet.
And that's good information. I mean, that's information about how the Greek language works.
Mm-hmm.
It's valid information. It's important information. It's something that every student of Greek eventually needs to know.
Right.
But what we want to emphasize here in this lesson is that all that information about accents and how they work in Greek, all that information can really be overwhelming. And especially for beginners who are just approaching the Greek language for the first time, that big focus on accents really can be too much too soon.
Mm-hmm.
It can just overwhelm the student.
Yeah. Particularly for native English speakers, it can be very overwhelming very quickly.
And so as an antidote to that, what I'm trying to do in this book is teach people about accents in the simplest possible way, in a way that gives them just the bare minimum that they need and nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I present accents in this book could be viewed as inadequate or perhaps oversimplistic. And I understand that. I can see why some people might see that. But I feel strongly that from the perspective of a student, a lot of that information is just not needed at this stage.
Right. Not saying it's never needed. It's just not needed right this minute.
Right. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying it could be delayed a bit until the students get their bearings and get some experience working with the language. And I may be Captain Obvious for stating this, but when you talk about a word and you talk about what syllable gets the accent, you're really talking about sounds, aren't you?
Yes. Pronunciation.
And so to me, since the idea here is about pronunciation, I believe that people need to be able to hear how these pronunciation patterns sound. And so that's why I've made all the recordings that go along with this book, so that we're not just simply describing accents to people. We're not saying, here are accent rules, and leaving them to figure them out on their own. We're actually providing recordings so they can hear the sound patterns that we're trying to describe.
Exactly. And we have to remember that written accents are actually a later addition to Greek. So 5th century BC Athenians would not be using these accents because they just knew how things were supposed to sound. The accents come later as more people are learning Greek and needing helps.
So the big takeaway that I want our listeners to get in this lesson is that you don't have to memorize all the accent rules right now. Memorizing all the different rules about acute accents, grave accents, or circumflex accents, all those rules are great.
Mm-hmm.
They're useful, and they're going to be very helpful for you as you get more advanced. But right now, as a beginner, you simply don't have to memorize all those. And in my opinion, a better way to spend your time at this early stage would be careful listening to the recordings that we've provided and hearing the patterns of pronunciation, and even looking at a sentence, looking at how it's written, noticing where the accents are, and then comparing that to the recording. To me, that could be very educational for a beginner, more so than simply memorizing accent rules.
Yes, because of the hearing of the language that one does not get from simply memorizing rules without hearing how the words are supposed to sound.
And so we'd like to encourage you, as you study ancient Greek, don't just see it as something that's written down. Think of it as a language that people say, that they pronounce, that they talk to each other with, something you can listen to, something you can speak, something you can read, something you can write. Try to see ancient Greek as a complete, real language in all of its aspects not simply something that you just read from a written page.
Exactly.
And as we say here in the book, if you incorporate speaking and listening into your daily regimen of study, you are simply going to progress faster and you're going to learn the language better.